On YouTube? Oh, here, I gotta hit the go live button. That usually helps. All right. So I believe we should be live on YouTube now as well. It'll take a second for it to show up on your end there, Alyssa, but we should have it. And just let me know if you're hearing me all right. Today, we're talking about essential gear for experts. And so I've got two different setups we're going to be looking at. I've got a webcam-based setup with using a Logitech camera, webcam, and kind of setting it up on a stand and using it with your computer with a better microphone. I'm also going to be talking about using a Sony ZV-E10 as a option as well, which is currently my favorite budget friendly-ish as far as these kind of cameras go. Way to do a lot of content creation and live streaming and whatnot. How we doing, Liz? Yeah, it's still up, but are you hearing me all right on YouTube? Great. Dynamite. All right, I'm gonna take this graphic off here. Hey everybody, it's official. We've begun. I'm Ryan Grams. I'm the owner of Uptop Films and Call Upgrade, and I'll play a little intro here quick for those watching on YouTube. Yes, Ryan Grams, technologist and filmmaker. That's what I do. I own a production company here in Minneapolis called Uptop Films. We've been creating a lot of content for brands all over the country. And when the pandemic hit, of course, everything stopped. The lockdown made everything crazy. So I got busy developing a lot of different solutions for remote video production. And that included a camera, light, microphone that would pack into a case and ship around the country. Inspired by that, we actually launched a whole new brand, Call Upgrade, which is what I do every day now, is developing these kits and solutions to help people level up their virtual interactions and content creation. So that's me, Ryan Grams from Uptop Films and Call Upgrade. Yeah, it's just been a ton of fun, and I can't wait to start doing more of this type of thing where I can hop online and answer people's questions. And mic I'm using for Instagram Live, Max is asking. This is just my built-in iPhone mic. Does it sound a little funny, Max? Let me know if I can reposition things. Actually, yeah, I wonder if I scooch this over a little bit. Tell me if that helps there. Maybe I was covering up the mic. Yes, so here we are. We're going to be doing some fun demos, and I'll be showing you guys kind of a way to build some of this stuff up and start implementing it and start using it a little bit. So, as well as we're also going to talk about a backdrop. This guy here that I use often for virtual meetings. So on YouTube, you can kind of see it's full screen there, and you can have different color backgrounds on this. Maybe for Instagram, maybe I'll a little higher, almost something like that. And yeah, I love these types of setups because you can instantly have a very different look, to what you're doing. Yeah, Max says it sounds like an iPhone mic. Yeah, that's because it is. Yeah, so let's talk about it. We've got a few different products here. I've got another camera here that we can kind of see some of these devices, and I can kind of show you how they work and all that kind of stuff. So let's dive right in. So the first thing I want to talk about is the kind of purpose of these things. So what I called this thing was essential gear for experts. And what I mean by that is experts, people who are experts in their field. And that doesn't necessarily mean any specific field, but I work a lot with people like in the mortgage industry and the real estate industry right now, as well as like financial advisors. And I also work with a lot of different instructors and teachers and coaches. And the one thing that everybody right now, it seems like, has in common is the need for content creation. So the initial precipice for all of this was these virtual meetings that we were doing, which was when the lockdown happened, suddenly we were all doing a lot of Zoom meetings. And of course, we're still doing a lot more Zoom meetings than we were 2, 3 years ago now. And so a lot of people are looking for ways to level up the quality of their Zoom meetings. So I've developed a few different kits that I have that, like this Call Upgrade Pro here, which is a camera, a microphone, a teleprompter, so you can have eye contact, just like I have right now with the camera. I'm able to look at my screen and these setups at the same time. And then what kind of really happened was we started doing more and more content creation as well. So I wanted to try to modify my solutions a bit to have gear that would work for both virtual meetings and high quality, as well as utilizing them for live stream. So today, rather than talking about the different kits and stuff that I have that are made up of a bunch of different parts, I want to kind of give everybody a few ideas if they wanted to take a crack at building one of their own. So we have two different setups. One I'm calling basic and one more advanced that we'll be talking through and how I typically like to see these types of things built out. So let's get started. Um, so if you see here, I've got a couple Logitech cameras. This is the new Brio 500, which is a great camera, and then the Brio 4K. I like this camera a lot. This is an older model, but we can look at these both here and kind of compare and talk about the pros and cons of each of these. This one here, get it out of the box. There we go. This is my favorite part right here is peeling off the focus. Come on, focus up, focus up. Doesn't want to focus. There it goes. There it goes. This is the best part right here, peeling off the stickers. Go. Oh yeah. This is the Brio 4K Ultra. Oh, there's another one. And it's got like this little clip that you can use to flip onto your monitor, of course. Got a little foot here too. You can also use it as a stand of sorts. Kind of like a little lamp, bounce around. Back to this camera, there we go. A lamp that can bounce around. Maybe do some stop motion animations with that at some point. But interestingly enough, I actually don't, unless I'm just mounting to the top of my monitor, which sometimes is a good thing to do. If I want to make vertical content, obviously it's a little harder to mount this thing. And so there's this odd way that they have this thing connected, and it's basically just tension bound. So if you want to take this webcam and mount it vertically to something, so what, for example, what we're going to be looking at is using a stand like one of these, and say you want to mount this camera sideways on a different stand. You want to be making content for Instagram Reels or whatever it might be. This part here doesn't. There's no screw or anything to get it out. The way to get it out is actually just to rip it out like that. And then you wind up with, there's a 1/4 20 screw slot there, but this isn't actually a screw. This is just a really tight tension fit piece. So it seems odd, but yeah, you just rip it off. So I like that a lot about this camera, the fact that it does have other ways to mount it. I'll show you some ideas and talk about why I mount them that way. Okay, so this stand here is the Samson MB1. It's a microphone stand. And I find myself using microphone stands a lot, especially these ones that are like desk stands that are a little bit smaller. It's not teeny. Kind of see the whole thing here. It's not the world's smallest stand by any means, but it is a little bit, certainly smaller than like a traditional tall mic stand. What I like about these is that they can fit on a desk. They have a heavy base, and they're pretty easy to adjust and use in a variety of situations. So let me start by talking about a pretty basic way of mounting some of the stuff here. So all these stands, just for starters, have a few different knobs, and all these different knobs will, if you loosen them, of course, you can extend or contract different pieces here, and angle them at different spots and do all kinds of fun stuff there. But how do we get this thing right attached to this thing? This is quite a bit smaller than this. Of course, you could just get an adapter, but then it's just stuck in one direction. And sure, you can move the stand around, but what I like to do is use what's called a ball head. I've got one over here somewhere. Go over to this angle. Yeah. Here we go. This guy, this ball head here. Let's see if it'll focus up. Focus up. No? Tap on it. There we go. So this is a ball head. I'll show you here on Instagram here in a second. And the mic stand itself comes with this little adapter here, which is a 5/8 inch to a 3/8 inch adapter. So you can just thread that on here. And then this adapter, or this ball head here, rather, um, it has the ability to kind of rotate around. So you can mount something like, say, a webcam to the ball head. There we go. Thread that on there, like so. And now you can angle this thing in a variety of ways. There's even a little notch. Go back to the main. Sorry, you can thread the camera right on top of the. Do that again here for you on YouTube. You can thread the camera right on top of this ball head here like this. Go. There's even this little notch right here, so you can put it in at an angle if you want to be normal horizontal, you can do that. Go vertical like that. Problem solved. And then so you just screw that adapter into the bottom of the ball head, and then you can screw this onto the mic stand, and suddenly your mic stand becomes the ultimate webcam stand. There we go. And so now I can just adjust this here like that. There we go. Look at that. Hey, Kyle. Hey, Fad. Thanks for joining us. Oh, we got Roven Furniture here, too. Great to see you guys. And yeah, this is just a great versatile way. We're talking about different creative ways to mount a webcam. So this Logitech Brio that I like a lot has the ability to, if you yank off the base of it, you can thread it onto different stands. And so this ball head here on this stand is a great way to give you some options. And of course, then you combine that with the versatility you have with the stand. So I could say, okay, I want to have this boom up here a little bit and raise it by adjusting this here, raise it up a little bit. And say I've got a screen right here. I can position this however I want, tighten it down. There we go. So you guys can see that better. Position this wherever I want, angle it however I want, and then use this ball head to reposition. So if you want to be horizontal, again, you can do that. If you want to lower it down a little bit and then maybe go vertical, that you certainly could do that with relative ease as well. And of course, let's get this thing plugged in. It's just got a USB-C connector on the back. Go. Now I'm going to fire up QuickTime so we can view this thing. New movie recording. Here we go. Logitech Brio. All right, man, this is right in my face. Let's check it out. Screen share. Okay, so I've got the Brio here. So I can kind of, again, use this stand to position it however I want. And so this would be obviously a good sort of setup for virtual meetings. We'll do that there. And I like this camera a lot because it's 4K, because it has, and for those who are on Instagram wondering what the heck I'm doing, I've got this webcam, the view of this webcam on the YouTube stream. So if you go to youtube.com/Ryan Grams, you'll see the live stream there if you want to see some of this kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a Logitech webcam, and what I like about it is this kind of setup is I could rotate it, and suddenly now I have a great setup here that if I wanted to capture some vertical videos with a pretty decent camera, I could. And you might think, well, why not just use your phone like everybody else? Absolutely. You still could do that as well. Some people really like having the same setup. That's a bit of a studio, multi-purpose studio that you could use for things like virtual meetings 1 minute, YouTube streams 1 minute, and then capturing vertical content that you'll send off to an editor another minute. I've got the next piece here is the microphone. So I've got this Razer Mini microphone that I like a lot for a basic setup. And this guy here is also just a USB mic. And so what you can do is you could actually take these elements, this camera, this microphone, and use a program like OBS on your computer, which is for Mac or Windows or whatever. And you can actually tie them all together and capture or stream with this camera, this microphone, and just use your computer for that side of it, which is great. Yeah, so of course, the other thing that you would want to have with this, I don't actually have, I'm using it right now. My light is right there, but I can show you a picture of the light that I'm using. So it's actually the same one that I use in my Call Upgrade Pro kit here. It is this guy. You can kind of see it in the corner there, top right corner. That is the Neewer 288 light. And I suppose this is also probably a good time to mention where you guys can find links to this stuff. If you go to RYKit, that is RYCIT.co. I've got a QR code for those who are on YouTube. If you want to check that website out, that's just a version of my kit.co. Kit.co is a place where you can put different gear kits together and have links to them for people to check out. So that's it's an affiliate setup. So obviously, if there's some commission involved there, and I appreciate if you guys are ever looking for gear recommendations and you go there and check it out, that helps me out, allows me to do more of this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for doing that. RYKit, RYCIT.co/ oh no, just RYKit.co. That'll take you to my RyanGramsKit.co. And anyway, on there I've got links to all these items. including the light that I'm talking about here. So let me pull that up so you can see a little bit about that. I'm literally just going to pull up Amazon here so we can look at some of these links. I've become in the last couple of years I don't know if this is such a thing, but an expert Amazon shopper. I find myself looking at all kinds of gear quite regularly. So let's pull up screen share. There we go. So this is the Neewer. I always just search for Neewer 288 for this light. They have a bunch of different models here. They have some that have like a clamp arm, an arm that you would clamp to your desk, and they have some on stands. Basically, yeah, you can see it's not terribly expensive, and it's 18 inches, and it has the ability to use batteries. Some of the kits come with batteries, some of them don't. But I like this light a lot. The same one that I'm using right now is my key light. My main source of light is coming from this light right here. And yeah, it's pretty decently sized and very, very bright. Oh yeah, I've got somebody commenting via text. Let's see here. Great stuff. Do you ever use a honeycomb on that light? I haven't used a honeycomb on this light. That's a great question though, Adrian. I don't know. Does someone make one? If they do, I would love to know about that because that would be a great idea. I could probably make my Glowforge back here. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, this light for the price is just an incredible light. So yeah, let's see. Let's go to the Rye kit so I can kind of show you. So for those of you following along on Instagram, if you want to pull up ryekit.co, and this is what I'm kind of showing off how this works. So the basic content creator kit is what I'm talking about here. We've got the webcam, the microphone, the light, and then down here, I'll get to this stuff in a second here, how I connect all this together. This is the extension tube for the mic stand, and yeah, the boom stand we talked about a little bit, and a ball head, of course, that would work on that boom stand. So let's talk about the mic here for a second, because I actually kind of forgot about that. The mic here, I'm going to take it apart a little bit. This is with an extension that I put on it, because the biggest thing that people don't know about microphones is you want to have that microphone about, I tell people, hang loose from your mouth. You don't want to be much further than about maybe 6 inches from the microphone if you can help it. Obviously, sometimes you can't help it, and so you got to do what you got to do. But in this case, with this Razer Mini, I like this microphone a lot, except for one thing, and that is the stand that it comes with. Put it back together here so you can see it. Is really, really, really short. So you wind up with this microphone on this teeny little stand, and this microphone's not bad. It's like $50. But this teeny little stand means it's not going to be, no matter what, when you set it on your desk, it's going to be far away. And thus it's not going to sound great. You need that microphone to be close. So what I'm going to do is unscrew this here, and you can see at the bottom of the mic, this is called a 5/8. It's the same thing that we're seeing on these mic stands. So it's a pretty standard thread there. And you can get this set of extension tubes. You can get 2 of these in a pack. So you can actually extend it up a little higher. You just thread this extension tube right onto this mic stand. Go, like so. And then, of course, just thread this thing right onto the mic. And, whoa. Something like that. There we go. Thread it right in. And like I said, it comes with a 2-pack, so you could get it up even higher if you wanted. And now, when you have this on your desk, I guess you can't really see it in the shot, but basically, you can have it up closer to your mic, or to your mouth. Have the mic closer to your mouth, getting that hang loose distance from between your mouth and mic, which is really, really important. Yes, so that's what's all in that basic kit is the camera, the mini microphone, the light, and this one, it has the desk clamp. So if that's the one that, if you have a desk that you could clamp it on, that works really, really well. Otherwise, they have other kits that have stands or you can get separate stands and whatnot as well. And then, yeah, the extension tubes, like I just showed you, the mic stand itself, and then the ball head. That's the part, if you recall. Go back here. Ball head is this piece here that would allow you to adjust the camera. So, yeah, let's see. Do we have any questions? Max had a question here. Why would you choose this light over, say, a ring light? That's a really fantabulous question. And a lot of people's go-to light, for whatever reason, has become the ring light, that big circle. I think I've got one over here. One of these guys. Fire it up. Woohoo! Yes, they can work well, and the design originally of a ring light was to be used over the camera. So you'd put the camera in the middle of the ring. And what that does is it gives you a really, really soft sort of look. Everything it kind of fills in all the shadows because it's lighting you from all around. And that is a look, but it does some other things. If you'll notice, I get these weird reflections, that circle, a very distinct. Oh, you've got a ring light. Look. And so for most setups, I actually do not recommend a ring light unless you want that specific look. And that look sometimes works well in like makeup tutorial videos, or there are definitely use cases for it. But ring lights are uh yeah, not my favorite kind of light, I'd say. So the reason that this light works well is that large surface is going to create a soft light. And so inversely, if you had like there's those small lights like the Lume Cube and some of these other ones that are really, really bright, but they're small. That small light is going to be a harsh light. And it's not going to look nearly as good or professional or soft as a larger light source like this one that I have up here. So yes, I would much rather see a large soft light than a ring light or a small bright light. Any other questions that I'm missing here? Let's see. Oh yeah. Let's see. What sort of software pipeline do you have to tie all the systems into the Stream Deck? Good question. I'm not even sure that I've talked yet about the Stream Deck very much, but yeah, I can briefly get into that. This is definitely a more advanced topic that I'll be doing more videos on. So if you guys want to hear any more of this type of stuff, all about it. So what I've got here next to me, the way I'm controlling this on YouTube, especially, is a Stream Deck. And in fact, let me just take a look at my settings here. The main buttons. That one is not set up right now. So I'll just talk about it here. I'll do a screen share. That's what I'll do. So I've got a Stream Deck here, which is a panel of buttons next to me. If I go to my screen share here, it looks a lot like this. Go to the emulator. There we go. It looks a lot like this. And so these are the buttons today that I'm using. So if I hit this RyKit button, that's the graphic that comes up. And if I go back to this here, screen share, there we go. And I can hit all these different buttons to have different graphics come up. And I'm using a piece of software called Companion. And Companion has all these different connections to different devices that you can make over networks. And so I'm connecting to my A10 Mini Pro and loading different graphics on there. And I'm also connecting to my HyperDeck, which is a video player, and I'm controlling things that way as well. And I'm also controlling my lights. So if I go back here to this button here and go to the studio button here, I can hit. Let's go to the RGB lights. Well, let's turn my key edge lights off. So hit that button, and that kills. I've got just a couple smart switches on there that just turns those lights on and off. And I can also do things. So if I go back here and pull up my backdrop, there we go. I have a button here that says BD as in backdrop, pink. I hit that button and it lights up my backdrop to pink. If I hit the blue button, it lights it up to blue. Hit it again, it shuts it off. So there's a lot of different programming that you can do to really take advantage of that. I really do like this pink look. I use that a lot. So yeah, that's the way that I'm controlling that. Does that answer your question, Benjamin? Hopefully, yeah. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. It says this is slick. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot that goes into this, and a big part of what I do actually from a consulting standpoint with my clients is this. We'll ship them the products that they need, and sometimes we'll do it in person, but the majority of my work is remote, where we'll get all this stuff hooked up, and then I'll program it even remotely to control the different devices, load in their logo, so they want to have their logo in the corner or full screen, they can hit a button to do that. And if they want to have like their social media graphics come up with a QR code, they can hit a button for that kind of thing. So that's same kind of stuff that I'm doing now. You can use that in Zoom meetings as well as right in something like this, a live stream on YouTube or whatnot. I find Companion to be definitely a little more advanced than some of the other solutions out there, especially since you can control devices on a network, not just software running on your computer. So it's yeah, really, really powerful stuff. And I'm definitely going to be doing some more content on that at some point as well. So happy to answer any of those questions in the future. And let us know too if you have specific questions. I don't know if I have a graphic for this yet or not, but we set up a callry.com slash questions. I think let's see here real quick. Let me fire that up. I'm gonna go to callry.com slash questions, and this is a Dropbox request link. Is it questions? Yes, it is. Callry.com slash questions. And on here is just you can upload files. So the idea there is if anybody has any questions, shoot a video on your phone and upload it, and I can use that in future content to answer your questions. So I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. I'm glad you're excited to learn more in the future. Yes. So as well, of course, you can always just email us. My email is ryan@callupgrade.com. And if you have questions that you want to hear about in the future, or if you wanted to get something like this set up for yourself, I'm happy to just set up a discovery call. We can find some time to chat on Zoom and answer any of your questions. All right, let's keep moving. We've got the advanced setup to talk about. So that was the more basic setup using the Logitech webcam. I should mention too, before I move on too much, there's a few Brios now. There used to just be the one Brio. So the one I've got here, right, is the Brio 4K. This is the OG Brio, and this one's great as well. It looks great. I love the picture quality of it, the Brio 500, and plus the device itself has this really great texture to it, which I think is really nice. But this one's only 1080, whereas this one's 4K. So if you want to be capturing content in 4K, the original Brio 4K is probably the way to go. Again, depending on what you want to do. This one does have some other great features, though, just as a webcam that are nice and worth checking out as well. All right, let's move on, though. So let's talk about the more advanced setup. And let's see here. What I'm going to be demoing today is this camera, which is the Sony ZV-E10, and I've got a few things going on this as well. And so again, if you want to go to rykit.co, there we go. I have some links to all these products that we're talking about here, so you can set some of these things up for yourself. So the interesting thing about this setup that we're going to do is very, very similar, and you'll see I kind of take the same kind of approach, whether it's using a webcam or whether it's using a bigger camera like this, and that is using these mic stands. I love these mic stands. There's a lot of ways you can rig them up to do not just for microphones, but for a lot of different things. So I've got another one back here, and this one is that same stand, but I've taken off the arm on the top, and I've actually added a clamp-on arm, so we can kind of get multiple things going here. So this is the way we're going to set this one up today, and we're going to have some fun with this here. So let me set this one aside, give me a little more workspace so we can see what's going on. So the first thing you might think is, okay, yeah, we did that ball head thing there on that other stand. You could probably do the same kind of thing here with this one. And yes, sort of, but that ball head I wouldn't recommend for a larger camera, even if it says it has the weight capacity for it. Just the size of it alone means it's not really going to support the weight. Now, the ball head that I am going to be using for this one is this guy here, a newer ball head. And that one is like $10, the one for the smaller camera. This one's more like 25 or $35, something like that. But this obviously is a lot bigger. You have it's going to support more weight. And so the same way that we attach the other one, though, is how we're going to attach this one. So let's do it real quick. These stands, the Samson MB1, include with the kit, as I mentioned before, a 5/8 to 3/8 adapter, and this thing can just screw right on top like that. There we go. And then the ball head, if you were to pick up this ball head, has this little adapter in the base of the ball head. And that's a 3/8 to 1/4 20 adapter. So we can actually just take that out. You might need a quarter. See if I got a coin here. Yeah, mine's a little snug, so I'm going to take a little dime, stick it in there. There we go, just to kind of get it loose. And then just take my thumb to screw it out. Keep these things handy. Keep them on hand, though. They're very handy. This is another little adapter, teeny little guy. That'll let you adapt from a smaller size to a bigger size. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So now on the base of this ball head, we have a 3/8 inch hole. And of course, that's what we adapted this to with the included adapter. So I should mention too, you might be wondering how I got this off. I'll show you on the other stand real quick. So this just threads right on top there. Let's thread that in. Set this aside for 1 second. Go backwards in time for a moment. This is how the mic stand is typically configured. You've got the base, and you've got this vertical pole here that can be lowered and raised a little bit. And then above that, you have what I always refer to as the T-bar. This T-bar can come off. So you can literally unscrew. Get it here, just about there. There we go. You can literally just take this bar off, and now you just have this base. So that's what I've done here with this one is I've taken the T-bar off and I put the ball head just right on top. And the reason for that is when you're using a heavier camera than a webcam, using something more like the ZV-E10 here, um, when you put it in there, that T-bar is not quite strong enough to really hold a heavier camera. So I like to take the T-bar off and just put a ball head right on top of this. And then in these types of setups, now you're just raising it up and down. So the way I'm connecting this, I should talk about here, I guess, a little bit. Let's lower this down. There we go. This plate is what was in the ball head. So unlike the other ball head, where you just screw the ball head itself into your camera, this ball head has a receiver plate and a receiver socket, I guess I don't know what you call it, the receiver, and then you have a plate, and then you would affix the plate to your camera. Now, in this case, and I could just screw this plate into the bottom of the camera. In this case, I'm using what's called a cage around the ZV-E10 that gives me more places to mount things. This isn't a required element though. I really like this cage, but you don't have to get a cage in order to attach this there. But I like it because then I don't need, because in the base of the cage, it has a built-in plate, which is nice. So I don't need to use that plate. And what I actually wind up doing is mounting the plate to the side. That way I can very easily have a vertical setup. So now I can do vertical content. And when I want to switch, I just unscrew this thing, rotate the camera back around this way to the bottom, and now I'm shooting horizontal content. So it makes it super, super easy to do both horizontal and vertical content with a cage like this. There's another adapter you can buy called an L bracket. I don't think I have any up here, where you can do a very similar kind of thing that without having a full cage. So there's a lot of ways to do that. But yeah, this is the Sony ZV-E10. Talk a little bit about the camera here. I like this camera a lot. It has a detachable lens, meaning you can put better lenses on here for different purposes. Right now, I'm using the Sony 18-105, which isn't actually the lens I typically recommend. It just happened to be the one I have on hand. On my Rykit link that you'll see if you go to the rykit.co and look at the advanced kit that I have on there, I'll just show you real quick. I'll do a screen share. The Sigma, the lens I found that I like best for, we'll call it desk content. An expert at a desk doing a talking head video, whether it's vertical or horizontal. If I go to the advanced kit here, let's pull it up. There we go. Advanced. This lens here, the Sigma 18-50 f2.8 contemporary for Sony E. This lens is great. It's an f2.8, which means it's faster and a bigger aperture, so you'll get a little more of that blurry background look, which I really like. And 18-50 is the zoom range. That's a pretty decent wide to like a medium close-up kind of lens. So it's a very versatile lens. And that's definitely the lens I typically recommend for the Sony ZV-E10 here. Anyway, going back to how this thing mounts, we can mount it, like I said, vertically, horizontally. And then what I typically do with this type of setup is plug a microphone directly into, spin this around so you can see it, into the top flap of this camera. Where is it? Right there. Right here, there's a microphone input. So you can plug a mic directly into it. Now, that sounds simple, and there are some mics that you can get that have just an 1/8" standard input. But if you really want to do it right, especially if the kind of trend right now is to use condenser mic or studio mic or some sort of podcaster mic with a camera like this. And my favorite way to do that is to do it at the highest quality is to use a preamp. So instead of just plugging the mic directly in, so let me talk about the microphone I'm using here. This is the mic I would typically use in a setup like this. This is the Shure MV7. I like this microphone a lot. On YouTube, this is what you're hearing. You're hearing this mic. On Instagram, unfortunately, you're just hearing my my camera mic. At some point, I'll probably get some sort of fancy setup where I can use a better microphone on Instagram. But for now, you'll have to just hear my iPhone mic. Sorry about that. But yes, on YouTube here, this is the mic that you're hearing. And I'll show you how this works. Camera going here. There we go. Over here. Over here is my preamp. This guy here. This is the Art Tube MP preamp. And they have a few different models, and they're all very good, especially for the price. And so as you can see, as I talk into it, the bars go up. And so that you have a way to monitor your signal. And then if a few buttons on here, phantom power, all the different things that you might need. and then you have gain and output to adjust the settings on this device. And so what I'm doing is actually plugging this microphone into the preamp, and then the preamp would plug directly into the camera. In my case, I'm plugging it into my streaming setup, but it's the same thing. You plug it into your camera so that you hear that really high quality sound, and then this camera also has a headphone jack, so you can monitor that sound as well. So what I do for a lot of my clients is a setup like this, where we have the Sony ZV-E10, and they'll have it at their desk, so they can use this same camera in their Zoom meetings, and they could live stream with it. They could use it for a high quality camera for the Zoom meetings. They could shoot a YouTube video with it, wide, horizontal if they wanted. And then very simply, if they want to, they can pick it up and rotate it here, and now be shooting really, really snazzy looking content for TikTok or Instagram Reels vertically, which I think is just a ton of fun, especially to do it at that high quality. So if you're ever scrolling through and you see, man, that guy's got just a really nice looking setup. The background's kind of blurry and the color rendition is really nice. The lighting's great. They might be using a camera like this, a mirrorless camera that has just a bigger sensor, and you get that blurry background look, as well as just, of course, it takes a lot to get those settings dialed in as well. But yeah, this is a great way to do that, and especially when you pair it with a preamp. So going back to RiKit here, here is the preamp right there, the Art Tube preamp. So that plugs into the wall for power. You plug the microphone into that, and then you plug the preamp also into the camera. So there's an input and output on this thing. So on here, I've got the different cables you might need, like this one here. This is how you plug it into your camera. An 1/8 inch stereo to 1/4 inch mono. That's the little guy would go into the camera. The big guy goes into the preamp. And then the other thing here, right next to it, the wireless controller. This is a great little, really, really handy device. And it looks like this. It's just a little Sony. It's a lot more expensive than I'd like it to be. It's like $78. It's about $80. And it's a Bluetooth controller. So it's not infrared. You don't have to point it. You can have it below your desk or whatever. But what I like about this is, with this camera, especially if you hook it up correctly using like a cam link, plug it into your computer to use it as a webcam, you can actually record content to this camera at the same time while you're using it to stream, or while you're using it to use as your camera in a Zoom meeting. So you hit the button on here, and then it'll start recording in the camera. And I find that to be a really, really great way to do multiple things at once. Say you're doing a coaching call, or you're in a meeting where you're giving a presentation, but you want to capture that and use it for other things later. You can actually use this remote to discreetly hit the button on the remote, and without having to reach over to the camera and say, okay, let me just hit the record button here real quick. You can just discreetly hit the button. Now you're recording your side of the conversation directly to the camera. So I think that's a really, really great way to do that. Samuel has a question. Any noise floor issues going directly into the camera? Sometimes. That's a great question. Noise floor. You could be referring to a few things. The preamp has a built-in gain, a 20 decibel gain boost that does a pretty good job of eliminating or not eliminating, but really reducing the noise floor going into the camera. What I do on the Sony here is I set it all the way to the lowest possible setting, so I'm not using any of the camera's gain. I want to use the gain on the preamp itself, and that really helps with any hiss and whatnot. The other thing sometimes that I'll run into with certain clients is their power is adding some sort of buzz or some sort of hum, and there's a bunch of different things that could be. Um, Oftentimes, it might mean investing in a little bit more equipment. This isn't in the list, but maybe I should add it. There's a piece of gear. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's from Furman. And I'll pull it up here on Amazon. Where is it? There it is. The Furman AC 215A compact power conditioner. Power conditioner is what it is. There's a few other ones out there that are a little bit cheaper. I found this one to be, it's $150, but it does the best job of all the different ones that I've tried, and I've tried a bunch of them. And it's really simple. It's like a power strip with 2 outlets, a big old power switch. It's very heavy. It's a lot bigger than you think it is too once you get it out of the box, but it does a really, really good job of isolating the power and cleaning it up, is the way I typically describe it. And oftentimes, if you have a buzz that you just can't seem to get rid of no matter what, plugging your tube MP and your camera into the Furman does a great job. And I guess that's probably a good point to mention too. Powering this camera out of the box, The camera comes with, a traditional battery that you would assume you use. Instead, what I'm using is what's called a dummy battery. So this thing looks like a battery with a cord coming out of it, and then you just stick this dummy battery into the camera, and there's actually even a little flap right here on the battery door intended for this exact purpose. So you can put the dummy battery in there, close it, and still have the cord coming out of the camera. And that will, of course, allow you to plug that into your wall and not have to worry about your battery dying. So if it's just sitting on your desk, that's a really, really great way to, to overcome that problem there. Um, yeah, let's see here. Uh, is there any other questions on these on the camera setup? There's a lot, of course, that I didn't cover with this setup, which is things like, how would you get all the settings dialed in, and maybe that's something I can talk about in a future video as well. There's a lot of details, especially in the Sony camera here, that to get it looking right, that you might want to play with. I'll give you the short version. I always recommend shooting on manual mode, and there's a few reasons, but the biggest thing is you want to control your shutter speed and you want to control your aperture. And then even when you're on manual mode, you can actually still have the ISO set to auto. And if any of those words just sound like, gibberish, that's okay. There's a lot of content out there on YouTube that can help you with some of that stuff. And maybe that's something I can get to in the future. If you want to learn more about those things, the best way to learn it is to dig into what's called the exposure triangle. That refers to the ISO or gain, the aperture or f-stop, and the shutter speed or shutter angle. Those three things form a triangle, and they all affect your exposure as well as other things like noise and how blurry the background is and how much motion blur is going on in your scene. And the simple version is in video, you typically want to have your shutter speed right around 2.8, and you typically want to have your aperture as open as you can if you want a blurry background. And sometimes I'll say as open as you can and then drop it down one notch. So if you have an f2.8 lens, open it all the way up to f2.8 and drop it down to f3.2, which will, yeah, sharpen up your lens a little bit and still be pretty darn blurry in the background. That will just help to, make sure you're not too soft with your lens. And aperture, shutter speed, and then ISO. Typically, for a lot of people, especially if they're in an environment where the lighting is changing because of the sunlight or the overhead lights change throughout the day, you might want to just stick the ISO on auto, and that could be a great way to, have a pretty reliable, you might say, setup. But there's a lot of different approaches for different situations. So I'd be happy to talk about some more of that kind of stuff later as well. Let's talk about the backdrop. How's that sound? Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, I will switch gears over to the backdrop here and set some of this stuff aside. And for what it's worth, too, we are putting a lot of content out on social media. You can definitely check some of that out here. At Ryan Grams is my handle on Instagram. At Call Upgrade is the company's handle. And that's where we're posting a lot of fun little tips and tricks, videos. And the videos that we're shooting is just with the same stuff, the same setup. I'm using a very similar camera to the Sony here for my vertical videos. And it's actually this camera here. It's a Canon camera, so it's not the Sony. But this guy here, if I can spin it over. Same kind of thing. That's a little Canon mirrorless camera. And then I just turn it vertical and we record that way. I've actually maybe might switch to using that Sony for a lot of our vertical cameras. I like to demo that Sony, so it's tough if I want to demo it and use it at the same time. So I only have one of those. Anyway, let's talk about the backdrop real quick, and then we'll get out of here. So this pop-up backdrop that I showed earlier, there's a few different models of this. I like this kind of setup a lot, where I can have a very different look instantly, and especially useful, of course, if your background isn't. So, for example, I have 3 kids at home, and I don't have a home office anymore there now that I have a physical space here in St. Paul. My home office has been taken over by my children, and it is now the playroom. But here in Minnesota, we have some crazy weather, so every now and again, I do wind up in the playroom for some virtual meetings or getting some work done. And if I have a meeting, my playroom is not exactly the most exciting looking background or professional looking background. Obviously, people are understanding, but at the same time, too, of course, this is what I do for a living. So I have to have a cool way to demo what a good way to do this might be. So a pop-up backdrop like this is a great way to do that. So again, I'll pull up my rykit.co here so you can see a couple recommendations that I have. So on the Rykit, page, there is a color changing pop-up backdrop right there in the middle. So there are a couple different items in here. And the first one is a 57 inch, and then there's a 78 inch. Let's pull both of these up. Oops. Come on. 57 inch. There we go. And I try to include links to multiple places. It's not just Amazon. You can find them in other places. There we go. So obviously, the biggest difference between these two items is the not just the price, but of course the width. So in this case, this one's 74.8, almost 75 inches wide, which is really wide. And the other one here is 4.8 feet wide, and that's the one I'm using right now. So it's not as big as you'd like it to be. I wish there was one halfway between, quite frankly. This one at 4.8 inches, this is like right on the edges of this shot. So it works for this kind of shot, but it's also pretty close to me. It's, just like a couple feet behind me. So if you want to have it further back, you probably need to get a bigger one. So they're very similar in price, actually. So this one's 177 and this one's 210. So if you have the space, because that's the other thing, take out a tape measure and see how wide 78.7 inches is, because it's pretty darn wide. Yeah, there's a few colors as well. There's white, black, blue, green, gray. I really like the black one, and here's why. I like to shine light on my pop-up backdrop like I'm doing right here. And of course, if you're using a white one, yeah, you could shine a light on it, but a colored light. But when you shine a colored light, you are still shining light onto the backdrop. So that means the backdrop itself is just going to get brighter. And so if it's white, it might have a pink hue to it, but it's just going to look like a really bright pink white. Versus if you're using a darker backdrop like black or even gray, when you shine a light on it, it's illuminating that in a certain color, and basically meaning the color pops a lot more. So the way that we do that, though, go back to the pictures here, is with a light bar. So I've got two different options on here, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of each here real quick. I've got just a stage light bar. This is more traditionally used in like, a club, a bar, or some sort of venue, but it's not terribly expensive, 115 bucks. And it has all kinds of different modes, and it has a few color modes and whatnot. You can even there's not the greatest control panel on there, but there's a control panel on the bar itself where you can change the colors. Yeah, the purple looks pretty great. And this one here is the same type of thing. It's a slightly different build, but about the same size. But it has the ability to connect your phone to it, and it is quite a bit cheaper. So there is that as well. So the biggest difference is if you want to be able to use something like your phone to control it, this is great. If you want to take and do more advanced things, this light has what's called DMX. The other one here, the stage light bar, the more expensive one, has a DMX input, which is how I'm able. So you can kind of see this here on the back of the light here. You've got the control panel on the left, and then you've got these right here are the DMX inputs. And let's go here. There we go. DMX in and out, and that is how I'm controlling my lights. So if I go back here and I hit a button on my panels that says blue, I can change the color, and I can actually change a few different colors. I have actually have another light over here. So depending on what I want, I can configure this to do a bunch of different things. So it's a really great way to have, different, different types of styles at the push of a button. And so again, the difference between these two lights is if you're just getting started, that more affordable one is probably a great way because you can control it with your phone. But if you are trying to build a studio and you want to have multiple items together, having a DMX setup, and it requires a computer running a piece of software and tie that in with Companion, some of that stuff I was talking about earlier. You can do a lot of really cool advanced things to be able to change the look of your setup at the push of a button. So yeah, that's the two different options for lights that I have there. Um, yeah. Any questions on all this? Maybe we'll take a few minutes. I know I've been yakking for quite a while, almost an hour here now. So if anybody has any questions, I would be more than happy to provide some answers, some ideas, some insights. Benjamin here says, are you running DMX software to control that, or a control panel? That's a great question, Benjamin. So I'm using a piece of software on my Mac called QLab. It's actually, my lights are controlled by this iMac back here. I've got this iMac running QLab, and I'm using that for more than just the lights. I'm actually using that to control, let's see if I go here to this, I can actually control what's on the screen. So I could have different videos up there. I could have different logos up there. I could put, Let's see, clear. Let's put my RG logo up there. I can control lights. I can control the content of the screen using this app QLab, and QLab is tied into my buttons here via Companion. So it's a device on the network. It's a whole separate computer, but Companion is talking to that iMac back there to control the content of that screen. So yeah, that's how I'm doing that. Great question, Benjamin. Thank you. What else do we got? Oh, hey, Fairway, Florida. How's it going, guys? I just got the email. Yeah, I we learned something today. I scheduled an email to let people know that we're going live, and I found out that it takes quite a while for that email to get sent. So I apologize on anybody that got my email and was just notified that I was going live in an hour. But oh wait, that was actually an hour ago. So feel free to check back and rewatch the video if you'd like. I had a lot of fun little tips and tricks in here. But thank you guys for hopping on here today. All right, Benjamin, you've had some great questions. Sammy, you had some great questions as well. Fairway guys, do you guys got anything that you've been struggling with that you want to hear more about? Look on Instagram. Do we have anything else going on Instagram here? Talk about the ring lights. Thanks everybody for joining, by the way. Oh, hey Jules. Hey Beaudry. Thank you guys for hopping on. Oh, Allie and Kuba. I haven't heard from you guys in a while. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, I've had a lot of fun in talking about all this stuff. And we're gonna be doing more of this kind of stuff. I don't know how often yet, but I'm thinking probably once a month or so for right now. And yeah, we want to hear your questions. So if you have questions, feel free to go to callrye.com/questions, and you can submit a video with your questions if you have questions you want to have answered, and we can take some of that stuff there. Thank you. Love everything you do. I appreciate that, you guys. That's the guys in Fairway. I'm assuming that's Derek. What was the backdrop again? Great question. So this backdrop, if you go to rykit.co, scan that with your phone there. There's two that I like a lot. I like the black one, first of all. So there's a about a 5 foot, 4.75 feet, 4.8 feet, something like that. A 4 foot wide one, and then a 78 inches. I don't know why one counts it in inches, one counts it in feet, which is 6.5 feet wide. I like the bigger one if you got the space for it. But yeah, there's black, there's white, there's blue, there's green, gray for these different backdrops. But yeah, I like the black one a lot, especially when you can combine it with a color. Dukes. Oh, it's Dukes, not Derek. Thanks for joining, Dukes. Yeah, I'll give you guys one more little demo of that. So I love having a wash color on that backdrop, especially if you just want a very different look very quickly. You can pull that backdrop up, turn a light on, and you've got a very different look, especially if you've already got good key lighting in place. Why add more lights if you for the lights in the front and then the edge lighting behind you? Why add more of those lights in a whole different setup if you can just duplicate what you're doing, you know, uh, by popping up a backdrop like that? Yes. All right. I think that's about it. Oh, one more question from Benjamin. Solution for live video calls with a remote guest. That would definitely be a good question for the future, I'd say, but I'll give you a couple little tips and tricks depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to bring a guest in on a live stream like this, say I wanted to have a guest here, there are ways to utilize Zoom to do that. There's a version of Zoom. There's a company that was purchased by Zoom that makes a version of Zoom called Zoom ISO, and it's a subscription-based software, and that lets you have a Zoom guest that you can take their output and isolate just their output, multiple outputs actually, using special hardware and software, and then you can add that to a switcher. So then you could cut to a different camera like this, but instead of cutting to a different camera, you're cutting to that Zoom isolated feed, which is a really cool way. You could also do picture-in-picture stuff where you could pop up someone over here and someone over here. You could program that. So I'm using a Blackmagic ATEM Mini switcher to do that sort of thing. And so if you combine the ATEM Mini with something like Zoom ISO, that's a really easy way to use it, especially since everybody knows how to use Zoom already. And so you're not fuddling with their settings with some other program and whatnot. But yeah, if you're wanting to record something versus doing a live stream like this, I really like there's a solution called Riverside. So if you go to callrye.com/Riverside, you can learn more about that there. That is a place that allows you to interview someone. It's kind of like a Zoom that runs in your web browser, but you're recording isolated streams of your different guests that you're talking to. So then you can download those streams and edit them together however you want, which is I find a really, really powerful way to do that. So that, like I said, is callrye.com/Riverside. I'll show you the link there. There it is, callrye/Riverside. And yeah, check it out. Really, really powerful tool. Another software subscription service. I can't remember their exact pricing, but it's pretty good. The big thing is you can actually record in up to 4K. So if you're using a 4K camera with your system, you can actually capture the full res. And what it's doing is it's recording to your computer, the different users. It's recording to the computer and uploading it as you're streaming. And so if your internet takes a dive, it's still recording on your computer and it'll continue uploading after it gets back on. So you never lose. There's no dropouts. So it's a really, really powerful tool. All right. I think that's all we have the time for today. Let's see here. I think I've got one more graphic. I don't even remember what buttons I set up for today. I probably didn't use them all. Got the Rykit Co one. I've got the Studio. I got the Key Edge. I'm looking at my buttons here, seeing what I forgot. Yeah. So thank you guys for hopping on here today. It's been a lot of fun. Feel free to send me an email, ryan@callupgrade.com, or go to callryan.com/questions to submit stuff for the future. And yeah, we'll be doing more of these soon, I'm sure. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you for sticking around and all the great questions, Benjamin and others on here. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Peace. Thanks so much, guys.